Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Chili Crunch Spatchcock Chicken. Kind of said that weird. Spatchcock Chicken. But today we're grilling up a whole chicken in the spatchcock style, which means we'll be removing the backbone before marinating and cooking this. And speaking of the marinade, we're gonna be soaking this chicken in a mixture of Japanese Kewpie mayo, some chili crunch, and a little bit of lime and jerk seasoning. So a lot of big flavors going on. But before we can get to that marinade, we gotta spatchcock this bird. So we're starting off with about a 4.5 pound bird here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut right along each side of the backbone. From the tail all the way up to the top, flip it around, and go right back down the other side of the backbone. All right, so this you can either discard or you can throw it in the freezer and use it to make some chicken stock later. Now we're just gonna do a little bit of cleaning up here. We'll get rid of some of that undesirable stuff. And then however much trimming you want to do, this is kind of up to you. But one thing I would recommend is find the end of this breastbone right here. Just slide your shears there and give it a little snip, just like that. And that'll pop that so that this will lay completely flat. And now you can see your breasts and your thighs are roughly about the same level to cook in roughly the same amount of time. Beyond that, the rest is kind of, again, totally up to you. I'll often take off this little flap right here just to expose this thigh meat. That way you can get some seasoning on there. Now in doing this, you also essentially make it so that not much more than the skin is holding the thighs onto the rest of the chicken, which is totally fine by me. I don't mind that at all. But it does mean that your thighs can pop off pretty easily. As you can see, that's just all that's holding on is that skin right there. Can pop off pretty easily on the grill. That can be a good or a bad thing depending on what you think about that. I'm not so worried about this coming off looking super pretty. We're gonna try and get some good color on this. We're gonna try and get some good texture on this, and that's far more important to me than this bird coming off all in one piece. So just taking off a little bit of that bone. Again, this is optional. Now you've got your thigh with nothing but the bone running through the center. Do the same thing on this side, just kind of getting rid of that little bit of backbone that's left over there. There's a joint that you just have to work your knife right through. And the other thing that you can do is kind of pull this up and expose some of that breast meat. It's going to make it easier to get some seasoning underneath there. But beyond that, that's all it really takes to spatchcock your chicken. Now for what we're doing today, we're really gonna get most of our seasoning from our marinade. And because of that, I'm gonna score this chicken and I'm gonna score it pretty deep. I'm gonna make some pretty deep cuts right into the meat so that we can work our marinade right down into that meat and through the skin. So everywhere we cut now, that marinade can kind of soak its way down into the meat. And we can also do this on the back side of the legs. All right, so now that we've got that all situated, let's go ahead and put this marinade together. We are gonna start off with 1 cup of our Japanese Kewpie mayo. This stuff is so creamy and tasty. And this fat's gonna really help carry the flavors. It also does some really cool stuff to the skin. You guys have seen me put mayo on the outside of a turkey before. It's kind of the same concept. All right, next we've got our chili crunch. So this is literally chili flakes, garlic, onion, all cooked down in oil. Tons of flavor. We're gonna do 3/4 cup of our chili crunch. Next, we're gonna do the zest and the juice of 1 good-sized lime. Just taking off that outer green layer with the microplane, and we'll knock this into the marinade. So getting a little bit of acidity in here now. We've got fat, we've got flavor, we've got a little bit of spice. Get some acidity to balance things out. This acidity is also going to do a little bit of the work in the marination process. And then finally, we're going to do our seasoning, which today we're using Plowboy's The Jerk seasoning, but you could do just about anything. You want to do a barbecue seasoning in here, that's great. A Cajun or blackening seasoning would be really good. But we're going to have these nice kind of tropical flavors of this dry jerk seasoning, and we'll do about a 1/4 cup of that. We'll get that fully whisked up here. And then before we actually get the chicken into this marinade, I want to go ahead and reserve a little bit of this for dipping later on. So we'll take about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup out. All right, so chicken's going right into the bowl. We'll cover that backside first. We'll flip it over. We want to work that marinade into all of those scores. Push it underneath that skin a little bit. And make sure that we've got some on top of the bird. And then all this needs now is some time. So time in the refrigerator, time to marinate. I'd say go at least 2 hours to really get the benefit of the marinade. But you also could leave this in the fridge all day while you're at work, a good 8 hours or so, and it'll be just fine. All right, so cover this up and throw it in the fridge. We're just about ready to pull the chicken out of the marinade, so we want to get the grill fired up. And today we're cooking on the Kamado Joe Classic 3 ceramic charcoal grill. We're going to be cooking with lump charcoal, obviously, so let's get it lit. All right, so we don't need a ton of charcoal. We're going to be cooking at about 400 today for probably about 45 minutes. So I'm going to make sure I arrange this so I've got plenty of airflow. You can go both around and through the charcoal. And then we'll just light up a couple of these KJ fire starters. Temp has come up past 400 degrees now. So we're gonna put the top on the slow roller here. We get our grates in place. We're gonna let this thing level off around 400 degrees. That temperature is gonna drop now that the plate's on top, and especially with the cold meat going on. So not really taking anything away from the marinade at this point. We're just gonna leave it right there on the chicken. You're not hearing the sizzle yet because we just put the grates back in, but they will heat up. And as this top plate gets hot, we're gonna get some nice browning on the skin of the chicken here as well. So we're gonna start this skin side down. We'll set a timer for about 25 minutes and come back and check on it. Well, we're about 30 minutes into this cook now. We're gonna go ahead and give our chicken a flip. And I'll tell you what's happened so far is that we've kind of started to render out the fat from the skin. You can see it's not super crispy yet, but that's fine. We're actually gonna finish this over direct heat so we can get a little bit more color here, but we need that fat to render out first so that we don't just have a fireball underneath it when we finish this cook. Now this is smelling amazing already. If we check our internals, we're at about 120 in the breasts. We want to take that up to 150, 155 before we flip one last time and go direct. All right, it's been about 45 minutes total now. The internal temperature inside the deepest part of the breast is right around 150, so we're gonna take this off for just a moment here. I told you we did a little bit extra trim and that might happen. That's all right. But what I wanna do now is I wanna remove this deflector plate so we can just get to some of that direct heat of the charcoal down below. And then we're going back skin side down, right over that charcoal. We're just gonna let this crisp up over the next 5 minutes or so. All right, we are ready to pull our chicken off the grill. Let's flip this over. Just a nice bit of browning. That skin's starting to crisp up. Nothing too heavy. Let's give this just a little bit of time to rest and cool down before we get a taste. All right, so we're gonna break these down and plate them up. Separate these out a little bit. Legs from the thighs, just cutting right between the joints. Take these wings off. Just go ahead and split this chicken right down the middle. And this you can either serve in big pieces. Like I would say that like each one of those is kind of its own serving. You get the wing attached to the top of the breast, the bottom half of the breast there. Or you can go ahead and dig this breast out away from those bones. That wing off, and then slice your breast up to serve. Let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, still nice and juicy inside. My goodness. That Kewpie chili crunch, so much flavor. The brightness that the lime adds to it really sets it off. Because there's a lot of like savory, a little bit of spicy, a little bit of fatty. The citrus is where it's at. The texture on that skin on the wing there is fantastic. I'm gonna try a little bit of this breast. As tender as can be. Getting some of those warming spices from the jerk rub that brings it to a Caribbean kind of place. There's just so much going on here. And this is such a versatile thing where you could continue to change your flavor profiles, still using that chili crunch, still using some mayo, but a different seasoning every time. You'll never get sick of this recipe. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.